Hello there, and welcome back to Writing the Beautiful with me, Monty. Today we're going to be going through the French MLAT paper from 2010. If you haven't already had a go at this yourself, what I suggest you do is pause the video, go to the paper via the link in the video description, and then come back once you're ready. Okay, great stuff. I hope that wasn't too bad. Welcome back to the video. So I'm just going to go through the questions and explain as I go. So the first one, I'm happy that you have already arrived, is what we need to get in French. So we need to put in the right single word to make that happen. So the normal way of saying you have already arrived in French would of course be tu es arrivé, but that's not what they're testing here. Well, they are kind of. You need to know that arriver is an être verb, it's a Mrs. Van der Tramp verb, you need to take être. What they're also testing is the fact that this here after que, it needs to be a subjunctive. There are three different places in which subjunctives pop up. First of all, harmonise some subjunctive after words like bien que, quoique, where it needs to be there. Second of all, expressions of doubt, probability. Je doute que, je ne pense pas que. Third, expressions of emotion, and that's what we have here. Je suis content que, je suis désolé que. And so we need to use a subjunctive here of être, present tense. Je suis content que tu sois déjà arrivé. If tu were feminine, or if we had elle here, or if we had il, remember that you'd have to make your past participle agree because we are using être. That's not the case here, as you can see. Also, keep in mind that this subjunctive phrase only happens because je is not the same person as tu. Obviously, that's quite obvious. But if you wanted to say something in French like, I am happy to have arrived, I am happy that I have arrived, you cannot use the que phrase. What you have to do is use an infinitive, like you also can do in English. Je suis content d'être arrivé. If you want to say, I'm happy that I have arrived, I'm happy to have arrived. Good. Second question, you just need to know that you need an a here. So in the 2009 paper, we talked about the difference between ce et something a infinitive and il est something de infinitive. If your sentence has a subject, like here, ce livre est facile à lire, you use ce and a, or c'est a. I think the example we had before was ce livre c'est facile à lire, and you've got a subject there as well, so that's why you use c'est and a. The other opportunity is if you have an impersonal sentence, you use il est and de. Il est difficile de lire ce livre. Hopefully that difference there is clear. This is impersonal. In the same way that an impersonal phrase you might have il pleut, for example, where it starts with the il. The il is the subject of that sentence. Here, the livre is the subject, so you need to use a. Here, il est difficile de. Next sentence. In the 2008 paper, we talked about verbs of fearing and the expletive ne, the ne expletif. If you want to look that up online, or if you want to go back to the 2008 video, that's what it's called, the ne expletif. After verbs of fearing, after certain phrases, even if your meaning is positive, I fear that she will get angry when she finds out this piece of news. You need to put a ne in there, or you can put a ne in there. They expect you to put a ne in there, just for style. If this were negative, you would put a pat in there and no one would know the difference. Notice as well that this se fâche, the tense, when I just translated it into English, I translated it as I fear that she will get angry. This is a present subjunctive because you need a subjunctive after craindre. That's another kind of expression of emotion, I guess, because there is no future subjunctive in French. Or you have to use the present even if you're referring to a future time in a subjunctive phrase. Good. Ce problème la préoccupe. So we are thinking of the problem and we need a pronoun to replace ce problème. Remember that if you're using penser, you can do two types of thinking in French. You can penser à something and you can penser de something. If you penser à something, then you are thinking of something. So you would say, je pense à mon petit ami. I'm thinking of my boyfriend. like you're far away or something, and you're dwelling on someone. Whereas penser de is to say have an opinion on something. So que penses-tu de Emmanuel Macron, par exemple? Que penses-tu de a political issue? So obviously here we're going to be thinking a problème, because, well, obviously you could have an opinion on the problem, but it's saying she's thinking about it all the time. She's kind of dwelling on it. So we're definitely going to use penser à here. So if we weren't in a sense with a pronoun, we would be saying elle pense à ce problème. But we need to replace à ce problème with a pronoun. And remember that the pronoun that replaces à is I. So elle y pense tout le temps. And I need to be in blue there. Just as you say, I'm going there, j'y vais. She is thinking about it, elle y pense. Fab. Next one. I'm going to assume that what we want here is a se. Ils se sont vus la semaine dernière. Maybe, I think lots of people will have come to this and they'll have thought, how is that possible? They've made a mistake. It should be il, and then they were expecting to put ils les ont vus or something, but no, we need a se in there. And what that means is they saw each other last week. Because se voir, to see each other, and because it's reflexive, we've gone into using être in the passé composé. I think that's fine. Yeah, and obviously remember direct object se. They see each other. Each other is direct object. Here, because voir, je le vois, il se voit. You need that PDO there. And as if by magic, the other type of pensée has just come up here. It's going to be que. So that means what do you think about it? Qu'en pensez-vous? Because it's using que to mean what, isn't it? Qu'en pensez-vous? But that en is coming from penser de. The en replaces de, just as I replaces a. Good. D'accord. This next one then. So according to the internet, lots of people will say either le jour quand or le jour que. I think le jour que is correct. So the day that I saw him, he looked tired. That's fine. Je lui dirais 3 timbres. Ah. So when you are talking about in French about a kind of a price, j'ai acheté des pommes à 15 euros or something, obviously not 15, but you know what I mean. So that's what it's saying. I would like 3 stamps, timbres à 85 centimes et 3 enveloppes. So I would like the three stamps that cost 85 centimes. That's what it's saying. And again, as if by magic, we have magicked up the answer to question 2. Il est difficile de. So there we have that impersonal il est difficile de comprendre ce qu'il veut. But back to question 2, ce livre est facile à lire. Fantastic. Obéir, remember, obéir is one of those verbs that is going to be followed by a preposition, and it is à. Those are the ones you just need to learn, really. So il faut obéir aux ordres du capitaine, because it would be aller, and à plus t obviously go to au. Hier, nous avons visité la Tour Eiffel. That you just need to know that visiter takes a direct object when it's talking about places. Obviously, the key exception to that is when you're visiting a person, you rendre visite à quelqu'un. And this last one, il est plus intelligent qu'il n'en a l'air. Let's just unpack this sentence. He is more clever than he looks would be a good translation of that. And then the ne is actually another, not the same expletive no as we saw earlier, but it is it's another example of where no just randomly appears in kind of comparative sentences like these ones. So for example, you might also say il est plus beau qu'on ne pense. He is more beautiful than, or more handsome than you might think than people think. And it's just there. And it's not something that people would do when they're speaking, but it is something that is literary. But yeah, that's fine, I think. Go on to these next ones. We're giving the appropriate form of the verb. This is where you need to know your conjugations, your irregular verbs, as I've always been saying. Remember your boot verbs, where the nous and the vous form look like the infinitive, but inside the boot you have an irregular form. So you can look that up on Wiktionary, I don't need to do all of it, but you do need to know that the future stem of ennuyer is irregular. So whilst you might expect it to be je m'ennuierai, because that's how you would normally form the future, that isn't the case. It is one of your irregular future stems, je m'ennuierai. And also, you also need to know that this needs to be future in the first place. If I can't go out tomorrow, I will, future, be bored alone at the house. Je m'ennuierai. Good. Every day we bake the fish, I think. We cook or bake, I think. And then we eat it. Nous le mangeons. And again, they are catching you out. You might want to say nous le mangeons, that, whatever that is. But the fact is that if you write that, it's going to be mangeons. You need to stick an E in there to ensure that that G is still pronounced as a je. Mangeons. It's the same in the imperfect. Je mangeais. Because before an A, an O, or a U, the letter G goes hard. Whereas before an E or an I, a G is soft. Italianists, you know this already. It's the same thing going on. But obviously you need to put that G in there to make sure that it stays soft. Puis nous le mangeons. And also we need to be in a present tense because tous les jours, it's a kind of repeated action. Here we have an example, second type of subjunctive, subjunctive of doubt. Again, irregular. Puissier. Remember your irregular subjunctive form, pouvoir, que je puisse. Although you probably did know that already, that is quite something that comes up quite a lot. Again, I mean, this isn't irregular, but it does test, do you know your stuff? Criant, because remember, if you're forming your imperfect tense, where you say, well, I take my new form, criant, I kill my ONS, and then I add my endings, which we did go through last time, je criais. What happens if my ending is a new one? Criant? Surely not. Surely it's get rid of one of those I's. No, it is exactly regular. Nous crions. A reminder that the only irregular verb in the imperfect tense is être, été. All of the rest of them are entirely regular. Follow that killing the new form kind of formula. Okay, next one. She will enter sans quand, sans que, another one. This is a harmonized subjunctive, just a phrase where you need the subjunctive to be there. Elle entrera sans quand, sans aperçoivent. Although this is a very regular subjunctive. Normal subjunctives form by taking the il form, this time killing the ent, and then adding your subjunctive endings. IONS, IEZ, and ENT. But what this of course did require you to know is that the il form of apercevoir is aperçoivent, whereas the je in the indicative is just j'aperçois. Lots of irregular verbs. Sorry. So she will enter without being seen, I guess would be a good translation of that. Another irregular verb. Nous peignons. Remember that it goes something like je peins, but nous peignons. Do look these up in Wiktionary, Quizlet, learn them. Autant que, here's another subjunctive phrase, autant que je sache. And savoir is another verb which is irregular in the subjunctive. Autant que je sache, as far as I know, il est déjà parti, he has already left. And finally, yet another verb whose subjunctive is irregular, il faut que vous bouviez. Something to keep in mind is your subjunctives. Okay, so I explained this rule to you earlier. Now the exception to this is where you have verbs whose stems change. So you would think that the subjunctive of boire, so it is que je boive, because boire in the ill form you take off the ent at the ent, que tu boives, qu'il boive. But of course, remember that this is a subjunctive, but remember that in the indicative present, it goes boire, 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 bouvant, bouvez, boive, and I can draw my boot around there. And the stem change, so this is obviously a stem change here, the stem change remains in the subjunctive. So que nous bouvions, que nous bouvions, que vous bouviez. Again, do look up specific verbs in your grammar books. Fab, okay. So you can see there's 8 verbs there, and if you haven't learned your regular verbs, then you will not have got any of those marks. But don't despair, you just have to do it. And then we've got our translations into French. Okay, so before leaving, I think that's pretty simple. Avant de partir. Remember that avant plus de plus infinitive, whereas après you have to say après avoir. Après avoir or être plus past participle. Après avoir arrosé les plantes, après être parti. But avant de partir. Paul was given. Now, it's entirely possible that some of you are thinking, oh, was given, I'm going to use my passive skills. Well, no. And here is why. So, in this sentence, Paul was given. A reminder that the original of this, so let's say that the person giving everything he needs is, I don't know, who's doing it? Let's call her Maria. Maria gave Paul everything he needed, specifically for his journey, although I'm not going to write that out now. Don't get any ideas. Maria gave Paul everything he needed. So if I pass everything in this sentence, then here is my subject, here is my verb. Let's not worry about that bit because it's going to get too complicated. We have 2 objects, right? Here's my direct object. Paul is, of course, my indirect object. The point of a passive is that, although, in English we can make passives out of indirect objects and out of direct objects. In French, you can only make a passive out of a direct object. So you could say everything was given to Paul. Or, for example, let's replace this with a noun. The apples. There we go. It's nice and simple. So we've got les pommes ont été données, passive agreement, ont été données à Paul. Paul is remaining English for the purposes of this sentence. Les pommes ont été données à Paul. Yeah, see, if this was German, I could say Paul, but nein, das ist nicht Deutsch, das ist Französisch. Les pommes ont été données à Paul. Sorry, anyway. So you can do that in French. Your passive subject can be the direct object of your active sentence, right? What your passive subject absolutely cannot be is the indirect object of your passive sentence. You cannot say, categorically you cannot say in French, Paul a été donné les pommes. It just doesn't work. It's horrible. Stop now. Turn around. Go back. It does not work. And it just is that way. And you will see that this is the case in Latin. It is to an extent the case in German. It's just English where, for some reason, don't ask me why, we've decided that, we can break the rules and use our indirect object as the subject of a passive sentence. Does not work in French. So what we need to do instead is use our trusty friend en. Because en, of course, can really mean anyone. What we can say is, avant de partir, en a donné à Paul. Oui, Paul, I think Paul's German now. On a donné à Paul. There, that's fine. On a donné à Paul. Notice also, what tense are we in? We are in a perfect tense here. So again, another trap you might have fallen into was thinking, oh, it's a was. Was means imperfect, doesn't it? Oh, yes. No! The imperfect passive in English for this sentence would be Paul was being given, right? But we don't have that. We have Paul was given. Think about it. This is a one-time event. It's happening once. It's happened in the past. You're going to want to use in French the passé composé for this here, okay? So, on a donné à Paul. And then we have this next thing, which is also quite complicated. I'm just going to write it out and then explain. Tout ce dont il avait besoin pour son voyage. Okay, so let's start with the dont. It might be that you are absolutely happy with that sentence, and if so, please skip over my explanation. Tout ce dont. So the verb to need is obviously avoir besoin de. So the tout just means all, but you can't have all followed by a relative clause. So let's forget about dont for the moment and let's talk about relative clauses. So compare these two sentences. So the first one is j'ai acheté une voiture qui était belle, ce qui était magnifique. Now, I want you to ask yourself, what does qui refer to here? What is being described as belle? Well, it's the voiture. The car itself is beautiful. J'ai acheté une voiture, but in the second one, the fact that there's that cert there means that it's referring to the whole sentence, not just the car, but to the whole idea of buying a car was magnificent. Ce qui était magnifique. And a similar thing is happening here. Tu cannot just be followed by, it cannot be tu qui or tu que. You have to say tu ce que or tu ce qui. And the reason for that is that tu has a kind of indefinite meaning. There are exceptions to this. It doesn't work the same way as it does in German. But just remember that if you want to say use tu in a relative clause, you have to put that ce in there. And we are having exactly a relative clause right here. Except because we have this verb avoir besoin de, instead of using qui or que, we have to use dont. And you can kind of think about this as tout ce de que. So that would be in English all that of which he needed, because the verb to need needs to be followed by of in French. But this de and que are going to form together, fuse to make tout ce dont. Tout ce dont il avait besoin. You might have think about it as you might have written yourself tout ce que il avait besoin de, but the de is going to fuse with the que to make dont. Please do leave a comment if I haven't explained that very well. But it's kind of thing. I'm finding it quite difficult to explain. But once you know it, it's just in your head and you don't need to think about it very much. Next sentence. I will send it to you. So je te, indirect, sent to you. Je te l'enverrai après-demain. So obviously that envoyer does have a very irregular future tense. Just to enverrai. And also think about your order of pronouns. If you need some help with this, then look up your order of pronouns football field online. Remember that the me, te, ce, nous and vous come first, and then you've got your le, la and les, and then you've got your lui and leur, and then you've got your i, and then you've got your en. And you can think about it as a football field if you like football. Yes. Yeah, and so you need to remember that. And it doesn't matter what is doing what. It doesn't matter whether this one is indirect or is direct. That's just the order they have to be in. So I will send it to you. Je te l'enverrai après-demain. And then we need a phrase, un last phrase. Now the word for unless is à moins que. Sorry, I need a smaller pen. À moins que. And you may have guessed that moins que is followed by a subjunctive. The other thing you have to know, there's also an expletive ne in there. So je te l'enverrai après-demain, à moins que. Tu ne le veuilles plus tôt. Vouloir, irregular subjunctive. Veuille. There's that expletive ne in there, always after à moins que. And we're assuming that the it, whatever it is masculine, but you could just as well put in a la there if you wanted to. Next sentence. It doesn't look as bad. Cette nouvelle, remember nouveau, nouvelle tend to come before the noun. Cette nouvelle, Renault, it's a Renault, est vraiment la meilleure voiture que j'ai jamais conduite. Why, you ask, is this a in the subjunctive? This is what is called a superlative antecedent. If you have it, it's the best thing. If you've got a superlative here, la meilleure voiture, the fastest car, the most expensive car, the smallest car that I have ever done something with, then your verb needs to be in the subjunctive. Que j'ai jamais conduite. This e here is reflecting the fact that voiture is feminine. It's a PDO because voiture is the direct object of this verb conduire. This jamais here is not negative, rather it just means ever. You need a ne and a jamais to make it mean never. Que j'ai jamais conduite means ever. Good. Although he was born in Pakistan, he's been living in India for 10 years. Bien que plus a subjunctive. We need a perfect subjunctive here. Bien qu'il soit né au Pakistan. Masculine country, no E on the end, so chances are it's a masculine country. Au Pakistan, il habite. You can do this now. Present tense plus depuis. Il habite depuis 10 ans. En Inde. And maybe for a nice touch, you can draw your one as a French person might do. Though perhaps then they'll think you're a native speaker. No, don't worry. Yeah, as you wish very much. When you finish reading Claire's book, give it back to her. We did talk about kind of hidden futures last time, didn't we, in the 2009? So another example might be when we go on holiday, we will visit a museum. Quand nous irons future en vacances, nous visiterons un musée. This is the second kind of example of those in which this needs to actually be a future perfect for the reason that this is an action in the future, but it's further back in time compared to this action over here. I mean, you could use a future here if you want, but I like to use a future perfect. So it would be quand tu auras. Reminder that finir is de, it's finir de something. Quand tu auras fini de lire le livre de Claire, rends le lui. Remember, so a number of things to unpack here. Remember with your imperatives that your pronouns are going to come after the imperative. So it's not m'aider, although of course that's what everyone says. It would of course be aidez-moi. Ajoutez-moi à ta liste. Whatever. And then after you've got your pronouns, they're going to follow the football field order of pronouns, which we've already seen once today. As you can see, this le is going to come before your lui. You may now also be asking, why are we in the present tense? Well, of course, we're not in the present tense because this is an imperative. And I suppose you could say that therefore it's tenseless. But if we weren't in the imperative, if the thing said, when you finish reading Claire's book, you will give it back to her, we would of course use the future. Tu le lui rendras. Fab. Okay, and now just quickly onto these translations into English. Keep in mind this phrase here, se mettre à faire something. It means to kind of set about doing something, to start doing something. So kind of this tout en, well, en continuant, obviously is whilst continuing to play. The tout en kind of stresses the fact that they're happening at the same time. So whilst all the while keeping playing, or keeping on playing maybe, he set about looking around him. You remember, you need to translate it as you think is best, as you think sounds most idiomatic in English, as you think it sounds like it hasn't just been coughed up by Google Translate, but actually a human has looked at this and think that sounds wrong in English, I need to change that a bit. But you can do that. After having crossed, by swimming, so after having swum across, the peu profond, well, not deep, or little deep, so shallow probably. After swimming across the shallow river, maybe, they came back home by car. Maybe even they drove home. Although, maybe it's someone else's car. Yeah, they came back home by car. Son frère cadet, her younger brother. S'emporter means to lose one's temper against. So this participle phrase, I guess you would translate it, or the equivalent in English would be with her younger brother having got angry with her, although you wouldn't say that in English. Maybe perhaps even introduce the element of causality, make that causal idea more clear. Since or because her younger brother got angry with her, Isabelle s'est tue. This is not Isabelle s'est tuée. This is not that. Do not write that down. This is s'est tue. That is an irregular past participle coming from se taire. She went quiet, and because it's the reason why there's that there, that e there, is because obviously it's reflexive. Isabelle, she's feminine, so it's going to agree. Tout un chacun just could be everyone or anyone. Perhaps even the tu is emphasizing that, so absolutely anyone at all. As sociable as he may be, or as he or she may be, should be able, devrait pouvoir, supporter. Yeah, you could say support, but obviously you want something more idiomatic than that. You might want to bear, maybe. Solitude, being alone, isolation. Don't say isolation, because that was obviously confinement in French. Or kind of in a coronavirus context, I suppose. But yeah, should be able to bear solitude. And here we are. Here are some wildflowers. Here you go, key and que difference, very important. We have had this before. Que refers back to the object. So the fact that the que is there means that fleur sauvage is the direct object of the verb which is coming. So cueillir. And mes beaux-parents is obviously therefore the subject of the sentence. Here are some wildflowers which my parents-in-law, my in-laws, picked a few days ago. And again, we have that kind of inversion for balance. Demain de l'aube à l'heure où blanchit la campagne. Okay, that's fab. I hope that was okay. Please, as always, leave some comments if I have explained something badly. Absolutely no problem at all. I will get back to you. And yes, I will see you next time for French MLAT from 2011. All the best.